Procrastination is a killer for most brokers. We spend loads of time thinking about all the things we should be doing and we don't actually do them at all. And so in today's episode, I want to break down five types of procrastinators and the type of procrastination that you can do, and talk about potentially how you can deal with them, because yeah, we all see it. Let's dive into it. So the first one you've got is the perfectionist. The perfectionist is somebody who is stressed out because they don't want to start a task, because they want to make sure it is absolutely perfect. They want to make sure they get every single detail right. Now, the perfectionist, this can get them stuck in a process. This can get them caught up in the details, and oftentimes means that they miss deadlines or they never actually deliver on something. And oftentimes, because of perfectionists, they struggle to even get started because they're too busy in the planning phase, making sure they know everything. And the problem with perfectionism is that actually for many people, the perfectionist is a tool we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better. But really all this is that we are afraid to get things wrong. That's the big one with the perfectionism. So we're scared of getting things wrong. And if you can address this idea of that we're scared of getting it wrong, then we can then move forward. Now, a couple of things you can do to help with this if you are a perfectionist procrastinator is, one, be clear about the purpose of your task. So if you're somebody that needs to complete something and have that done, then if you make it really clear that this specific task is to get some X done, so in a small task, chunk it into very small chunks, then that's going to be easier to do. And also assign a time limit for those things. So make sure that it's done by this time. That is going to, if you have a specific task and a specific time, it should trigger that desire to deliver the result in the right way, as long as the task is small enough. So take the big thing, chunk it down, and then still lean into that. Be clear on your purpose and assign a time limit. That's the perfectionist. That's how you can overcome that in some ways. So the dreamer is the second one. This one, I slam this one all the time because I'm definitely not the dreamer. I have different ones in this, but I'm not the dreamer. The dreamer is the person who enjoys making all these big plans, these big lofty ideas, and then they never actually action them. And these people are very common. They are very creative, and I am a creative guy, but they're very creative, but it's hard for them to actually finish any task or do any task. And I do meet a lot of dreamers. These are people who come on the call and they're going to tell me they've got 4 or 5 different business ideas. They're going to run a company. Most of the time, by the way, the dreamer, a big sign for me for a dreamer is somebody who comes in who is just started their mortgages, or maybe they're just a one-man, one-woman band, and then they're like, I'm going to sell my business. That is big red flag of dreamer. That is like good luck. And what they mean is these dreamers oftentimes they find it hard for them to finish the tasks, I've said, and so they don't ever get to those goals, and they just keep pushing it further and further ahead, and then eventually you see them 10 years later and they still are in the exact same place, or maybe slightly forward but nowhere near their potential. So how do you do this with a dreamer? Really, what you do have to do, if you are a dreamer or you're working with a dreamer, you do need to bring back their dream into a more realistic goal. So you just deconstruct the dream into smaller bite-sized chunks that are possible for them to complete. So that otherwise, that they're trying to climb Everest, and what they're trying to do is jump Everest. We need to do it one step at a time. So this is one way of doing it, is deconstructing that goal, that dream, into a tangible, actionable step. For this, by the way, I would recommend that you really want to think about like setting any goals. For example, you probably don't want to be thinking any further than the next 12 months. If you're a dreamer, think about the next 12 months. Break that into 4 quarters. As a broker, what am I going to do in Q1? What am I going to do in Q2, 3 and 4? And what am I going to do in the month 1, month 2, all the way up to month 12? Break these down into smaller chunks. Anything over a year, as a dreamer, if that is your tendency to be a procrastinator, it's not going to go very well. So just don't bother doing the 5-year goal plans until you've got that down. Which brings me on to the third one, and the third one is the avoider. So the avoider is somebody who would rather put off a task, not do the task, and instead of being faced by somebody maybe mocking them or criticizing them due to their mistakes. Avoiders are different to, as I said, the perfectionists and the dreamers, because an avoider is actively going, it's just not worth doing because I'd rather, it's like the whole thing of the devil than the devil you don't type scenario. That's what an avoider will do. And if you're avoiding things because you don't want the bad outcome to happen, that's a massive sign of procrastination. Now, I know for myself, I'm not an avoider in this, but I'm actually the last one. But I am not an avoider, but I know for myself, if you're someone with an avoiding personality, the only way you're going to overcome this with it, say with mortgages, for example, is it's like the eat the frog mentality. You've got to go in, you've got to do it, and you've got to face it and realize that actually it's okay. And so, for example, let's take in mortgages. If you are you're scared, for example, of doing insurance, this is a classic avoider tactic. You're avoiding insurance because you've had a clawback and you don't want another clawback. And so it's easier for you to not sell insurance and guarantee the income versus sell the insurance and it not guarantee it. This is a classic avoider procrastinating tactic within this. And that scenario means that you see people who are making 60 grand a year, and they want to guarantee their 60 grand, but they don't want to make 150, 200,000 because they don't want to sell insurance, because they're worried about what could happen if it actually went wrong. Versus, okay, you might go wrong. You might get a clawback. You might get 2 clawbacks in that year, 3 clawbacks in that year. Let's say you get clawed back 20 grand. You made 200,000. If you claw back 20, you still have 180 versus the 60 that you were originally having when you had nothing, when you weren't doing any insurance. This is the type of avoider thing that you need to reframe and go, oh, okay, there's nothing to fear. You have to get over that fear. It's hard to do. That one, by the way, I would say the avoider is one of the ones that really does make your life quite miserable if you don't address it. Number 4 is the crisis maker. So the crisis maker deliberately pushes things back to the last minute, and then they find it exciting to get things done at the last minute. People do, I work best under pressure. This is the type of stuff that you hear people say with that. And so they'll say, oh, I'll do it right before the end. Now, by the way, I'm a little bit of a combo of this and the last one, but I'm definitely the last one more. But I'm a combo of this one, which is that for myself, which is that you leave things to the end and then feel like, I'll get to it. I don't need to worry about it. I'll get to it at the end. And I won't. Or I do, but it's always stressful. And by the way, these are people, brokers, who I'm calling you out here. I love you, and this is obviously part of the show. These are the people who you are leaving your cases. Let's say your network says you've got X amount of days to submit the case onto their platform. If you don't submit their case all at the same time and just do it all in one hit, you're missing a trick. These are the guys who are leaving the insurance till you've completed on the house. These are the people who are leaving the case until we don't need to upload it. They said you can do it in 3 weeks. So you do it on 2 weeks, just on the 3-week deadline. This is what that is. And every broker I know who does that, one of my very good friends who is in this industry does this. And he is always stressed all the time. And there is always income that is not being collected. And there is always fees that are not being collected. It's big. Okay. The crisis maker, you feel like you're making yourself better by being under pressure, but you're not. You're just missing the ball. You're dropping the ball. You're missing opportunities. And so you've got to to fix this, you've got to get out the illusion of thinking that actually last minute is a good idea. It's not a good idea to do last minute. Instead, what you want to do is potentially bring it to, I'm a big advocate within this. I focus on short, intense, focused work bursts within this. And what I try to do is I try to do what I call the close the loop process, which is when something happens. So a situation happens. Let's say if I submitted a mortgage, if I was a broker now and I'd submitted the mortgage or I'd got the client, I'd submitted to the lender. I would close that loop, meaning that I'd submit to the lender, submit to the network, get all the documents in order. I'd want to close it up so that there's nothing left to do on that. Basic one with this for my life is when I eat something, I wash my dish and I put it back like that. So I prepare all the food, I clean up as I go, I eat my food, I wash my dish, I put it back. And the idea is that when I finished eating, the whole thing is done. Instead of classic crisis maker, leave the dishes till the end of the day. And then they're just stacked up and you're like, oh, and then you'll just leave them to soak. That's exactly the same thing here. That's a crisis maker mentality, a procrastinator in that way. Which leads me on to the 5th one. And number 5 is me down to a nutshell. And some of you will be here. And this one is the busy procrastinator. Okay, the busy procrastinator. And I know a few of you, good friends of mine, who are this too, and I love you all very much. And this is normally a type A personality. People who are high achievers fall into this category. They have trouble choosing what to do with their time because they have a lot of work to do. And what they do then is they then make themselves busy with things that are not necessarily the priority. This is a busy procrastinator. So a busy procrastinator might know they need to do the mortgage case submission, but they might decide they need to listen to this podcast because this is more important than the case on their desk. They might be really busy and know they need to submit that mortgage again, but they might decide that they need to make sure that they speak to that estate agent and try and get a new introducer. They might decide, classic in my case, that they are too busy to do marketing or to do the process correct because they haven't got the time, but really, so they'll just half-arse it and do other things and focus on the other things and put out the fires. But the reality is, what they're actually doing is putting off the thing they know they need to do, which is they know they need to get up and do a piece of content every single morning. They know they need to follow the process and introduce insurance to every single person. They know they need to offer a full solution, full comprehensive cover to people and be that £600 a month. And they have to present that first as a price anchor. They know that, but they don't, because they taught themselves into, I'm too busy, I'm super busy. And they tell themselves that they're busy, and they are busy, but they're busy doing nothing. Or not so much doing nothing, but not doing the thing. I watched this, Chris Williamson said this once, which he said, if it's not the thing, what did he say? He said, you've got to do the thing, not plan the thing, think about the thing, talk about the thing, speak to your friend about the thing, meditate on the thing. You have to do the thing. If it's not the thing, then it's not being done. And that's exactly this with, I'm so bad at this, by the way. So this is my one, is the busy procrastinator. And this is where I think many people struggle. Why am I not getting the results I want? Yeah, I am so busy. Don't do that. I'm like this with content. I could spend forever making content because I love it. I'm busy doing content, but the reality is there's a million other things I need to do that my business is going to be more beneficial than me making another video. I don't need more content. It's exactly the same thing here. That's that one. So how do you do that? You focus on the things you need to do and write a priority. From this is how I do it. I write a priority list of all the things I need to do and what the things I should do, and then I go down that list. And the way I do how I overcome this busy procrastinator stuff for myself is I have a daily routine. And each part of that day is focused. Like right now, this is in the morning, 10 to 11, and I'm recording content because this is my content power hour. This is all about content. Any messages and emails come in, they're gone. I focus on the task at hand, I nail that task down, and then I move on. I struggle with this very much, but it is that. It's this idea of putting the thing in priority and planning it beforehand to go, I need to do this, I need to do this. And for example, it might be email marketing, something I'm new at, but newish at. I'm doing it, but I'm newish at it. I put it off because I'd rather do something else. But the reality is I need to do it. And so that's the type of thing that I constantly have to focus on. So those are the 5 types of procrastinators. We're all procrastinators in some way or another, and we all fit on that spectrum. You might be 1 or 2 or 3 of them. If you don't see yourself as any of them, you're probably delusional. But I'd love to know from any of you, if you're listening to this or watching this specifically and you're watching, let me know your thoughts. Which type of procrastinator are you? And if you want to learn more about working with me and stuff like that, please go and head over to ashborland.com, where you're going to get all the information there. And I'll see you in the next episode of the Mortgage Business Mastery. See you later.